Hello everyone, this is Camille with Mimi Journals, and today I wanted to share with you guys my two new sketchbooks and also do some paper testing and pen testing and all of that. So on this channel, I will probably share art periodically. I haven't really decided how frequently, but it is a regular part of my life, just various art-related hobbies, and I do feel like it's kind of in the vein of journaling, so hopefully you guys enjoy that. But yeah, just let me know what kind of stuff you want to see. But I wanted to compare the two sketchbooks that I got. So I have here an Illo sketchbook, as well as the Ohuhu marker sketchbook. This just came in the mail today, and I've had this for about a month, but I really haven't been able to work in it too much. But this one is super popular on YouTube, and then this one I got because I have the Ohuhu markers, and I really wanted to be able to use them more often, so I wanted a sketchbook that was better designed for them. So we'll talk really quick about the specs just so that you know the difference. So with this one, the Illo sketchbook, I have it pulled up right here that I will read this off to you. This is an 8x8 sketchbook. It is 122-pound paper, and it has 112 pages. The 122 pounds is the equivalent of 180 GSM. So that's what we're looking at here. I have used one of these in the past and I have filled it, and I very much enjoyed that process, and so that's why I got it again, is because it's a really nice size for me and I feel like it does suit my needs in a lot of ways. This one I got because, like I said, I want to be able to use my markers a lot more often, and it looked like it was designed for that. I mean, it's the same brand as the majority of the markers I have. I have both Ohuhu and Copic markers, and we'll be doing the tests of all the mediums today. So this one is an 8x3 or 8.3 by 8.3, so it's just the tiniest bit bigger, right? 8x8, and then 8.3 by 8.3, so you can see that there. It is 156 pages and 120 pounds or 200 GSM. The other main difference, they both have the elastic, they both have the back pocket. The other main difference I would say is the type of cover it is. So this one has kind of a soft, like give sort of matte cover, and then this one has a textured cover that's quite a bit harder. So the covers have definitely a different, well, the thickness of the covers is about the same, but this has a much more dark black, whereas this has kind of like a charcoal black, and then obviously the texture is very different. So what I wanted to do for the pen test and just general media test is, I really don't like having pen test pages. I just think they're kind of ugly. I know it's like dumb, but that's just where I'm at. And so I decided to do a very basic, like it's super sketchy and like nothing drawing, but I'd rather have a drawing that I like messed with than just have like lines of stuff. So I did a similar drawing in both sketchbooks in the back as the pen test and medium test page. So here is the page I drew for the Illo sketchbook, and then for the Ohuhu sketchbook, I drew this. So like I said, they're both, I wanted them to be similar so that it would be easy to compare. So just jellyfish on both. I figured that's better than just having the lines. And I drew both of these just with classic ballpoint pen, because that is the medium that I use the most. So my favorite ballpoint pens are these ones. They are Big is the brand, and I don't actually know the size. They're super generic, super cheap. You get like a pack of freaking like 15 of them or whatever for like $3. But this is what I use to draw 90% of the time. So that's what these are drawn in. So we're going to be testing Copic's, Ohuhu, Micron, Ballpoint, which is already on here, Pentel, or no, not Pentel, sorry, Tombow brush pens, and a couple of other things. Let's see. We might even get to testing my Peerless watercolors. We're going to do standard watercolors. We might also test Peerless watercolors. I just want to see how the paper takes everything. So I have this protective film underneath both of them because I know better with the Illo sketchbook how much bleeding to expect, but I have no idea because this is my first time having this brand of sketchbook. So we will just get right into it. I don't really have a big, like, a plan. I just know, like, the different things that I want to test. So first, I mean, Micron is something that I actually use more in writing than I do in drawing, but I want to get better about that. And so we will go ahead and test that here on this page. Let's go for something where it's obvious. So I'm going to go for this middle little dealio, I don't know what you call this, ribbon, on my jellyfish to test how it takes to Micron. So one of the biggest things, differences I've noticed between these two sketchbooks is the tooth of the paper. So the Illo, which is the one, like I said, I've used before, is extremely smooth. It's like butter smooth, which, you know, like, just dependent on your preferences. You could either love that or find it a little bit more difficult, especially if you have particular mediums that you want to use. But I personally love the super smooth paper. With this one, there's definitely more of a tooth to it. Not a ton. Like, it's still a very smooth paper compared to a lot of other sketchbooks, but you can feel a texture underneath it or in it in a way that you don't feel with Illo. So that is interesting. I enjoy it. I definitely don't have a problem with it, but it's just like a noticeable difference. So here we have the Micron, and there is absolutely no ghosting or bleed through, so, which is not a surprise. It is pretty thick paper, but you just never know until you test it for sure. I don't think that I'm going to bother like lining with Micron the rest of the drawing, because I actually really, for my sketchbooks, I really enjoy the sketch look. And a lot of my sketching for me personally is more about just enjoying the process and kind of expressing myself than it is about creating finished artwork. I tend to focus on creating finished artwork when I'm doing digital art, and I don't really worry about that in my sketchbooks. I try to just enjoy my sketchbooks, but it really depends on the day for me, honestly. I mean, there are definitely days where I take drawing in my sketchbook a bit more seriously, and will make it less messy. So, you know, we'll see. So, like, with this one, you can kind of tell that the pen had just, like, woken up because you can see the splotches on it, but I just think it gives it character. It doesn't really bother me. And I'm trying to figure out where I want to put the Micron for the Illo. I guess we can, let's go ahead and line the bulb here. So more likely than not, at least if I remember correctly, I'm not going to have any issues with this pen bleeding through or ghosting or anything on this sketchbook either. This is definitely a pretty safe medium to use really in the majority of sketchbooks as far as I'm aware. Once I find sketchbooks I like, I tend not to deviate from them too much, but I will periodically try new things just for, like, the fun of it. So I do have a lot of sketchbooks in my sort of repertoire where I have dabbled in various just like sizes and paper types and all of those things. So if you're interested in seeing that, I can definitely make videos on that. I also have, you know, old filled sketchbooks that I could flip through if you guys want to see those. I am definitely self-taught, and it's just a hobby. It's not, you know, I'm not trying to make a living out of it. I don't consider myself a professional, nothing like that. It's literally just for my own health and happiness sort of situation. So you can tell because I obviously, you know, I am just kind of in neutral, I guess, at drawing. I'm somebody who does a lot better, or actually does like 90% of my art by reference. So I have a really hard time, which maybe further in my sort of art journey this will change, but I have a really hard time drawing things straight from imagination with no reference. So I usually am looking at something and either adapting it or changing it or just learning from it. So it'll kind of vary depending on what I'm doing. If I'm trying to just learn from the technique or learn from what I'm seeing in front of me, or like whatever, right? Like it changes. But my sketchbooks are basically filled with like Pinterest references, just because I'm just drawing things I enjoy. And I'm not worrying about it because it's not like I'm selling it or anything like that. So this is a good example of that. This is the first page that I did in this sketchbook, and I literally just find pictures on Pinterest that I like, and then I draw them, and then I just collage it until I'm satisfied, and then I move on to the next page. So I will reference photographs, I will reference Disney, I'll reference, or Pixar, I'll reference just other artists, I reference like just whatever, I don't really care. It's just whatever seems like will be fun to draw, I draw, because it's for me. So yeah, so that's all that's in here right now, besides obviously the pen test that we're working on. So this, again, I'm using this to protect the other side just in case, but obviously zero ghosting and definitely no bleed through, no issues. So the next thing we will test is, I'm trying to decide. There's a pen that I always use to write that I'm super in love with, and I'm trying to decide if I want it, in my sketchbook or not, just because it would probably be interesting to know whether or not it's a good fit. So it's the Uniball Vision Elite. It is very, very silky smooth ink, and I love that. And so I write with this thing constantly, but I don't draw with it, though it would be an interesting art challenge to draw with it. So I guess we can go ahead and test it in the book here. I'm going to do very, very thin. Chances are when I start testing other stuff in here, this is going to bleed into it. Because obviously Micron is like alcohol marker resistant. This is not, and this isn't even water resistant. So chances are it's going to be a bit messy once it starts interacting with other things here on this page. So I am going to, let's see, I'm just going to do this side thing here. So yeah, I mean, it's nothing too exciting, but it rolls on the page just fine. And it looks nice. It looks just as bold as it does anywhere else. And it's about what I expected, to be honest. But we will see how it interacts. I'm going to put watercolor on here, and I'm going to put Copics on here. Chances are this is going to start bleeding all over the place. That's what I predict anyways. But no ghosting. And where should I put this here? I just want to put it somewhere where I'm not really going to care too much that it starts getting messy. Which on this one it's a little bit harder to find because it's like mostly the little things are like centrally located. Let's see here. I guess I'll put it over here on the side and just not worry about it bleeding into something, which it probably will. Interesting, it's skipping more on this page, but that could just be like sheer like coincidence. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, so this is my most common writing utensil. This is what I always draw with, and then this is what I always plan with. Like in my planners I write with this, but in my journals I write with this. So these are most common three pens that I use. I want to test out brush pens, so the Tombow brush pens. So let's see here. I want to see both how it uses just the standard ink, but also how, let's see what kind of colors I want to use too. I'm thinking of using this one. So with, I mean, maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't, But Tombow brush pens are water soluble, so you can kind of do a combination of drawing and painting with them. So I want to see how both of these take that. And I'm trying to figure out which jellyfish I want to have which colors. So the reference that I used for this jellyfish has a blue, purple, green, and pink thing going, but I don't necessarily need to stick to that. I'm trying to make this swatch like easy, so I'm not spending a ton of time because this video is going to be long already, I'm sure of it. And let's see, I think purples and blues and greens will be nice, and pink. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do that just because that way I'll stop wasting everybody's time and you won't be watching me like forever. So we're going to color one of these tentacles. Okay. So already one of the things I'm noticing is this color is coming out quite a bit darker than I'm used to. So I use this pen quite a bit in other things, and this pink normally isn't this dark. So that's interesting. It's definitely the paper is taking it on a little bit differently than I expected. So I'm normally using my planner with these pens, and if you can see, doesn't really matter, but I'm used to it being quite a bit lighter, which is very, very different paper, so that makes sense. It just surprised me. And that's that. So we will see how well this lifts, because once I start adding water to it to see how well it takes on kind of that painting thing that you can do with these, we'll see how well this lifts. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about this particular color on this paper. I'm not necessarily a big fan, to be honest, but that is okay. I'm gonna go ahead and use this paintbrush. So I'm just gonna get it a little bit wet, not a ton, because I don't want to oversaturate the paper. I don't want to pull on it too hard. It's really not pulling up. Interesting. Okay, so you can tell that it's doing it a little bit, but not a lot. It's kind of resisting being pulled up, which can vary quite a bit from paper to paper, because there's definitely been times where this is like my own version of watercolor, where I could take these pens, add some water, and and it pulls up really fast, really easily, and gives me a lot of color to work with. So this paper is very much resisting that process, which is good to know. So that is the Tombow brush pens in the Illo sketchbook. Let's see what we get from the Tombow brush pen in the Ohuhu sketchbook. I said the wrong one. Let's see what we get in the Illo. So now that I know that I'm not a big fan of this color in sketchbooks, I don't want to make as big of a commitment. Let's see. I guess, well, once I put it down, it kind of needs to go. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go, wait. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go inside this bulb because that's way less of a commitment. Okay, I already am much happier with the way the ink is going down. So I don't know if you can tell, but the ink is not getting like splotchy. It's going down very even, and it's going down a lot lighter than it was in the Ohuhu. So exactly same pen, but this went down much more even and much lighter than this, and much smoother. It was kind of very splotchy in this one, and it seems to be much less splotchy in this one. And then if we pull, see how it just instantly pulls it up, and you get a lot more color coming out of it. That's what I wanted. That's what I expected. So basically, learning from this, the Illo Sketchbook is much, much better for Tombow brush pens, especially if you're using them as watercolor, than the Ohuhu Sketchbook is. And this is going to take a second to dry, so I'm going to try to do this. Okay. Next thing we want to, I'm probably not going to finish coloring these because this video is going to be way too long, but I will finish trying out the different mediums. So here is my very messy old paint palette, and we're going to go ahead and keep working on this same jellyfish. And let's go ahead and use, what do we want to use? So we have this kind of matted pink here. I guess we could go for like a purple, or gosh, I'm trying to think of what would look okay with it. It's not a very nice color, to be honest. Let's go, I want a bright color so you can really see how it's working. I don't know if you can see what part of the paint palette I'm using. So I'm using this one over here. It's kind of a magenta. And we'll go ahead and do the other. This is not the best setup. Okay. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm struggling, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other tentacle here. So, interesting. Definitely should have used a smaller paintbrush to fit in this space, but that was just my bad. Nothing against the sketchbook. The water is really sitting on top of the paper and not absorbing very quickly. But it seems to be taking the color okay. And I'm just, at this point, I'm just painting out of the lines because I don't have the patience to get it right with this big paintbrush. But yeah, it seems to kind of resist just a little bit, not a lot, but a little, the watercolor, which based on this experience, that shouldn't be a huge surprise. It feels like the paper is already buckling, and that didn't take very long at all. So it seems to kind of have a pretty quick response to watercolor. Okay. Interesting. I will say once it starts to dry, like you can already see it drying here, I do like the look of it when it's dry. I don't necessarily like how it feels putting it down, but it's also been a long time since I've watercolored, so it could just be me being not good at it, which is definitely a possibility. And then let's see here. With this one, we will, let's go, well, I guess I'll continue to use the same color just to keep consistency. And I will put it where, we'll put it around the same bulb. or I guess I'm gonna go in and start in on these. Okay. Interesting choice, Camille. Again, I should have switched paintbrushes and I didn't, and that's just my bad. But I just wanted to get these little strings. Okay, so this seems to take longer to seep into the paper than the other one. Yeah, it's definitely staying wetter, more wet. Okay. That was the pen. And like I said, it did pretty much exactly what I expected. So it immediately started to muddy the watercolor here. Try to clean this up a bit. Try to spread this stuff out here. I don't know where I'm going. Okay. Well, gotta give that a second to dry. So that is standard watercolors, as well as Tombow brush pens, Micron, and it's definitely interesting. Okay. And then one last thing. So let's try. So these are my Peerless watercolors. Peerless watercolors are these paper watercolors, and like the powder is like infused into the paper. I'm not describing this well at all, but they're absolutely stunning. They're extremely vibrant and I love them, and so it makes it like, I like them to the point where I have a hard time using them. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but like I almost don't like using them because I feel like I'm wasting them, which I need to get over that. So I cut them down into strips to help me kind of reduce the waste and just use as little as possible while I'm doing it. I've seen both methods where you just take water on your brush, grab a little bit here, and then rock and roll. And I've also seen where people cut the strip and soak it in the water and then just use it that way. And I'm going to, because I don't have an extra dish, I'm just gonna do this method. And we'll go ahead and go this guy here. Well, that is a very, very different color than previous colors that I chose for this, but that is okay. The whole point of this is to test products anyways, or test mediums, excuse me. So that is, so Peerless is absolutely gorgeous. It is just like, I know I just keep saying the same words over and over again, but I think it's like an ink-based watercolor too or something. It's like, it was originally designed to recolor black and white photos, I'm pretty sure, and then they turned it into a watercolor product, which is pretty cool as a photography nerd myself, that it's cool that I can have watercolors that kind of originated from that. So like, you know, as you can see, it took very, very little of the paper to get a pretty decent amount of color onto the page. Very high saturation. But it looks gorgeous in the Ohuhu sketchbook. So let's see how it looks in the Illo. I just keep plopping these on and off of each other even before they're dry. Oh well. You can tell I'm not particularly like delicate with my art stuff. I don't know. For me, it's such a form of just expression. It's so designed to just be freeing that I feel like if I am too precious with it, then it kind of defeats the purpose. For me specifically, that's obviously like a personal preference thing. But yeah, I feel like the whole point is to give me a space to just kind of like breathe and not stress about stuff and just kind of enjoy making, even if it's sloppy and a little bit ugly. So yeah, let's see. I like that it takes so little color to get such a high saturation. That makes me very happy. And I think as far as Peerless go, I feel pretty even about the way the sketchbooks are handling them. I think there is a little bit of a difference, but it's not significant enough for me to prefer one sketchbook over the other when it comes to the Peerless watercolor. I think this sketchbook picks up more of the unevenness of my strokes. So it's dark, it's much easier, like dark in some areas, light in some areas. It just takes on a lot more of the texture of the painting. Whereas I feel like with the Illo, it creates much more even coating. So dependent on your preferences in art, that's something to kind of be aware of if you're thinking about either of these sketchbooks and thinking about using watercolor in them. So yeah, that's just the main difference that I noticed, is this feels a lot more evenly coated and the other one feels like a lot more like, not splotchy because that makes it sound negative, but a lot more of the texture to my painting. I am not a good painter. I paint when I want to and I paint because it's fun, but I am not somebody who considers myself good at painting at all. So maybe somebody who is more skilled at watercolor would have a different experience. The last thing we're gonna test are the alcohol markers. So I have this one marker that is not either brand, but I just love the color, so I bought it anyways. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and it is Master's Touch, just an alcohol marker, generic alcohol marker. Then I have Ohuhu markers, which is the same brand as this sketchbook. And then I have Copics, which are the ones that everybody knows. So we are going to try all three of these. I literally only have one of these. I have a ton of these and I have some of these. So let's try the off-brand one first. I was just like, there's this sort of magenta-ish color that I'm super duper obsessed with. That I'm always trying to find the exact like color that exists in my head in a marker, and I keep coming like super close and then just not quite getting there, which I know sounds weird, but maybe other artists can relate to this. Like sometimes you just have a color in your head and it's like so exact and you like want it so bad and then you have a hard time finding it. I'm not really sure what that's about. But that's something that happens to me. So feel free to comment if you can relate. So this color I really enjoyed. Honestly, when I bought it, I thought it was a lot more pink, a lot more like magenta, whereas in this particular sketchbook, it's coming out a lot more red, and that was kind of a surprise. Doesn't really go with the rest of it, but oh well. It's very smooth to the touch, like, yeah, like the way it is interacting with the paper is very pleasant. And it feels like it's going on very evenly, whereas I honestly didn't expect that based on how blotchy all of these experiences have been. but this feels very, very even, very smooth, going onto the paper. And we will see if it feels the same on the Illo. It probably will. This is the Ohuhu, which this sketchbook is supposed to be designed for markers, so I guess it makes sense that it would respond well. You would hope anyways. But yeah, I'm very happy with the way it feels and the way it looks. It's definitely nice. It's good. Like I said, just ignore how sloppy I am. That's just kind of my way of doing things. And so we'll go ahead and just keep going in this sketchbook and then switch over. So that was the generic Master's Touch, and then we will go into the Copic. And let's see, actually, no, sorry, because I'm gonna blend. So we'll go first into the Ohuhu. The other main difference between Ohuhus and Copics, at least the ones that I have, is the nib. This is a hard nib. These are the brush pen. Whereas you can get Ohuhu with the brush pen nib, but they are more expensive, and I went the less expensive route with Ohuhu because I wanted more colors. I actually personally really love the hard nib Ohuhus. I know like brush pen is like the thing to like and to use, but I like the feel, I like the sound. I just enjoy them. I think a lot of it too is the fact that I'm not trying to do professional work, so whatever shortcomings may exist from not having the brush nib, I kind of just don't really care. It's just a personal preference thing, as most art stuff is. So this is the Ohuhu layer, and we'll go into the Copic layer. And the Copic layer. So obviously using Copics is significantly smoother because of the brush nib. You can even kind of hear it. I don't know, it's very quiet, but you can hear the shh, shh, shh of the Copic versus the like noise of the Ohuhu. So it's definitely a very different experience using the two pens, but I think they're both quite beautiful. And I enjoy having both, especially because Ohuhus come out to about 50 cents a marker, whereas Copics, depending on where you buy them, are up to $8 a marker. Pretty big difference. So even though Copics have a lot of strengths that some would argue Ohuhus don't have, you also are getting Ohuhus at like 1/8 of the price or something like that. Something pretty crazy. So I definitely appreciate that brand because it makes it so that I get to enjoy alcohol markers and enjoy a lot of them at a much, much, much more reasonable price point. Okay, so outline is the generic brand, bottom is Ohuhu, top is Copic. And then if we go over, yep, there's quite a bit of bleed through. So that definitely goes beyond ghosting. The generic brand seems to almost be ghosting, like if it was a lighter color, maybe it would ghost versus bleed through. Copic definitely bleeds through. And then Ohuhu, I actually went pretty rough, like I was like definitely not being mild about the color, so it didn't go through as much. So that's interesting. Even though this one's lighter, it bled through more. And even though this one's darker, it bled through less. So that's good to know. So that's what you get with this Ohuhu sketchbook. I like it a lot, actually. I will definitely be using it. I got it for the whole point of using pens, markers in it, so I'll probably end up only being able to draw on one side of the paper just because that's the medium that I'm going to be using it for the most. But who knows, maybe I'll do just kind of generic pen sketches on the other side and just have only one side colored. I don't really know how that would look. It'd probably be pretty messy, to be honest, but that seems to be kind of my thing, so it could work out just fine. And we will go ahead and try to wrap this up. This video is so long, I'm so sorry. So we will go in and do the generic brand, and we will do the outline in a generic brand, and let's go ahead and do, oh gosh, what am I doing? Do I want to do this one or do I want to do this one? I'll do this one. Okay, so this color is already a lot more vibrant on this page, I feel like, than the last sketchbook. Yeah, the color feels more vibrant. It also feels more liquidy. Like it feels like it sits on top of the paper more versus getting instantly absorbed, like in the last one. So it almost looks more watercolor-esque in this paper than it did on the other paper, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. This definitely feels and looks different in my opinion. And we'll go ahead and also put the bulb, the center bulb, as this color. I love this color so much. It's like a cherry red, cherry magenta-y red. I don't know. Anyways, okay, so that's the generic. Go in and how should I do this? This is the Ohuhu. I'm kind of just winging it, to be honest. Let's see. Plus, I'm not taking this super seriously because it's more for the test than it is for the art. Okay, and then kind of go in here on the edge. And kind of color in, give it some depth here like this. So kind of give it a border of the dark color. So I'm definitely also noticing some feathering. So this ink seems to expand a little bit more on this paper and feather a bit more on the edges of this paper than it did on the last one. And that is something I am fine with, but it's just something to be aware of. Some people do not like feathering at all, so. Okay, so that is that for the Ohuhu, and then come in here with the Copic and at least cover the flower looking base. I really like how alcohol markers pick up the ballpoint pen. That's just a personal preference that I'm sure not very many people have, but I have. I actually really like it, that you like see the ballpoint pen kind of shine through, that it like lifts the ballpoint, and like, I don't know if, not texture, but it definitely creates like a particular character interacting with the ballpoint like that. And I enjoy it, and that's why I use it. Not that side, this side. Let's see. So yeah, I think that these watercolor works a lot better on this one, and I think that alcohol markers work a lot better on the other one, is kind of my conclusion here. Not that they work badly on this one, it's just that I think it's easier. I don't know if easier is even the right term. It's just a subjective thing. I think I just like it better in the other one. So yeah, it just looks, it looks smoother. It looks like it took to the paper a lot better. And it doesn't have the feathering. So I'm definitely glad I bought this for my markers. I will definitely continue to use Peerless in this sketchbook. But yeah, that is it for the pen tests. So we used these, we used these, and we used this one. So thank you so much for watching, and if you got to the end, I am seriously impressed, and I appreciate you very much, and I hope this gives you something to consider as far as buying your own sketchbooks, and let me know what kind of art you would like to see, or really whatever. But that is it for now, and take care.